Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Brickanista Broadcast Network. Great to have you all here. And I know that we've had some interesting discussions here on the Brickanista Broadcast Network. And I am happy and thrilled to be welcoming my buddy, Lina Suarez. So welcome, Lina. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
That's awesome. Well, I am excited because we have been talking for a while. And yes, you've brought your little extra, what do you call them, props for our discussion. And we are going to talk about Bionicle today. And I know that Lena and we met at a nonprofit meeting.
Yep, that is correct.
So what are the names of your characters there?
I cannot remember. These were just the McDonald's promo ones from 2001. I do not remember the names.
Oh my gosh, that is
I just remember
hilarious.
there were two characters that actually played a part in the Matunui online game back in the day. I remember.
I'm just checking to make sure. I have to have something open here so I can read the chat, but I think that's hilarious. And Brickman Mosaic Art is here. Hey, great to see
Howdy,
you.
Brickman Mosaic.
And Max Braun is here too. So Max, I was
Welcome.
just mentioning to Lena before the show started that Max Braun was my first interview guest that I've had on the show where we talked about Micropolis. And today we have our second guest who is going to talk about the topic of Bionicle. And I know that for some of us, like myself, I have no clue what Bionicle is, except it's got some really cool parts and pieces. And Lena and I met at a nonprofit meeting and we were talking about Lego. And of course, when we were chatting, Lena was talking about, yeah, I've got all this Bionicle. I go, are you kidding? You've got all this Bionicle? I have no clue about Bionicle. And I mentioned to them, I said, it'd be great to have you on my show just to talk about Bionicle, share with the audience a little bit more about it, because I think Bionicle gets kind of a bad rap in the Lego world.
Oh, definitely.
And I don't understand that because Bionicle has, some really cool parts to it. I think that, people are really big into mechs, and Bionicle had a lot of articulating parts with mechs, etc. So I'm not sure why it's got such a bad rap.
Without Bionicle, there would not be Lego theme sets with actual stories that you actually are told to you. It'd just be still making your own stories up, like the space or pirate sets.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think too, Bionicle gave us all of the articulating arms and kind of the growth of the mech craze too, with
Yes,
like
definitely.
Transformers and some other things. But it's funny because when they recently had that 90th anniversary, what do you call it, the poll where they were asking people what do they want for the theme, and the Bionicle people came out in droves. And a lot of the other people were saying, well, wait a minute, I don't know if I want a Bionicle 90th anniversary set. And there was pirates and castle and some other themes that were there. But I was just intrigued because, as I mentioned, I have no real Bionicle in my collection. I have a couple of bulk bins where I would get a few parts here and there, but I haven't actually purchased a Bionicle set. So I thought it was interesting because you have a pretty big history of being with or part of the Bionicle different pieces since what, the 90s, you said?
Actually, early thousands when Bionicle started. I've been with Lego since the early to mid
Oh,
90s.
okay. Okay, so you essentially have been a Lego fan for a long time.
For
And
most of my
then
life, yeah.
and then when Bionicle came about, then you really jumped on that. And Brickman Mosaic Art says, I think the Bionicle idea set is going to drop on April Fool's
Oh,
Day because you think it's a joke. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Those are fighting words. Remember, Brickman Mosaic Art, this is my guest here who's big into Bionicle. So I don't know if you really want to start a feud with my guest right now.
I'm not going to say anything, okay?
I know you're really
No,
good
no
about
comment.
that.
I accept you for who you are and that you do. I understand you don't like Bionicle, And that's fine. That's totally fine. Everyone has their own fandom
Well,
in
it's
Lego.
funny because, all right, so Brickman Mosaic Art, since you brought it up, or Brick Mandalorian is who we call Brickman Mosaic here. And this is Lina Calrissian, for those of you who are part of the Brickanista Broadcast Network universe. And then I'm Brick Rainista here. But since you brought it up, Brickman Mosaic Arts, I mean, you're in also kind of a very specific niche where you
Yes,
talk
yes,
about
very niche.
mosaics. There's not, there's a lot of people who do mosaics, but then similarly in Bionicle, there's a niche of Bionicle too. So, I wouldn't be surprised if you also get some feuding of people talking about mosaics versus Lego versus Bionicle too. So since you
Well,
brought that up,
well, I bet you like bits, because bits are actually really good for mosaics.
well, I love how the new mosaics have, those special frames
Oh
that you
yeah,
can actually hang it up on a wall, because most of the mosaics I've done have been on the base plate and you
yeah.
can't really attach the base plate to anything. But
Yeah.
anyway, we're going to talk about Bionicle. And so going back to Lina's background. So Lina has been, involved with Lego since the mid 90s. They also have had a chance to get right on the ground floor with Bionicle when Bionicle first came out. And you have an amazing collection from what I can tell. And I'm just kind of curious.
I did have an amazing collection. I lost most of it in a fire, and I just have been rebuilding ever since 2014.
Yeah, and something that we had talked about before we went live is that Lina has some Bionicle to share as far as some of the pieces that are important that when you're building a Bionicle structure, but unfortunately they lost a lot of their collection in 2014 and to a fire. And I know what it's like to be evacuated from a fire, and I was lucky that all of my pieces never got touched, but to lose a collection, that's got to be rough.
Yeah, it was from 2001 or 2000 up until the end of the first series.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, a year and to 2 years afterwards, they re-released in 2015 with the Gen 2, and they also brought down the second part of Gen 2, which was the last part.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and I have a graphic about that we'll show later. So Max Braun says he's seen some amazing things out of Bionicle. And also Brick Mandalorian Mosaic Art says, funny thing is that I never had a Bionicle set ever. Okay, so that's interesting because he's the one who threw the gauntlet down, but you don't know what Bionicle is. So, you can't necessarily call it an April Fool's joke.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have another?
Yes, might I recommend Mosaic? I recommend just to get a set, see what it is like to have the gears on the inside. They have little gears that make the arms move on the earlier ones. Just kind of get a Toa Mata or Toa Nuva, maybe a Toa Metro, and just enjoy the just fun of moving arms, the removable mask with a little face underneath. It's just a fun time. It's a little display piece. Maybe a thing you could have brought to school when you're growing up.
Can you show those gears again? A close up of the gear in the back.
There are three gears and then one to move everything.
Mm-hmm. See, that's really amazing to me that with the gears, I'm still trying to understand gears and rotators a little bit better, but it sounds like Bionicle was one of the big, early sets that was doing more of that.
And the Toa Metro, like this Lecon, had gears on the inside underneath this little chest plate right there. We could spin it, the gear on the back, do the same thing. But they have the arms on a little axles on the side, so they're kind of angled, which is a little bit better for the movement.
So I'm going to go back and we're going to talk a little bit about the history. And we have just a small little slideshow that we wanted to share with you. Oh no, it's like, what happened to my PowerPoint? Okay, let me see if I can get my PowerPoint back up. I see what happened is my PowerPoint got absconded by the, what do you call it? when we first launched YouTube, the web browser took that instead as the main thing. Okay, let me see if I can get us back to where I want us to be. Okay, all right, back to the regular show. So let me now share this screen. Okay, can you see that now? Bionicle. So tell us a little bit about, you were mentioning to me about this mask, that there's some significance about this mask here. Uh-oh, you're muted, Al. Or Lina.
Sorry, that's the infected Howl from the first part of the comics. Let me just first start off with some exposition from most of Bionicle stuff. Starts with this little short excerpt. It says, "The Legend of Matunui. In the time before time, the Great Spirit descended from the heavens, carrying we, the ones called the Matoran, to this island paradise. We were separate and without purpose, so the Great Spirit blessed us with the three virtues: unity, duty, and destiny. We embraced these gifts, and in gratitude, we named our island home Matunui, after the Great Spirit himself. But our happiness was not to last. Matanui's brother, Makuta, was jealous of these honors and betrayed him. Makuta cast a spell over Matunui, who fell into a deep slumber. Makuta's power dominated the land as the fields withered away, the sunlight grew cold, and the ancient values were forgotten. Still all hope was not lost. The legend told of the six mighty heroes, the Toa, who would arrive to save Matunui. Time would reveal these were not just simply myths, for the Toa did appear."
So if I can just ask you a question about what you were just reading about. So there is minifigure collector has mentioned that he had all the Matunui Toraga book, and also via the Kai Parik as well. And you should have had me on there as a Bionicle expert. Okay, well, you know, it's funny. I would love to have you also come on sometime. But yeah.
Yes. The Borak, I think it's talking about, not Brook. It's called Borak. Yes, the Borak and Borak Kai were what the Toa Mata and then the Toa Nuva fought right after the Rahi with the infected mask, which controlled Rahi. That mask in the background was part of Makuta at the time, who was a shapeshifter and just the dark character. Pretty much embodiment of darkness at the time, later to be retconned.
So what's interesting is that what you were reading is that this whole story about Matunui and I guess these gods, these six gods that were also part of the legend, or
they're warriors. Toa I believe, means warrior in some sort of pigeon language.
Right. And I think too, just the names that you were saying, Matunui, etc. And before we started this chat, we were talking about how New Zealanders and some of the language of Bionicle was kind of modeled after, I think, the Maori language, which is something new that I didn't know about, which I'm fascinated about, because I have been adopted by a Maori whanau, which is a family, or an iwi. And so when you were mentioning and just reading that little section, it reminded me of how a lot of the language has that kind of lyrical sense to it.
Yes, and New Zealand actually took legal action against Lego so that they would not be able to use any more words or terms, because I believe there was a term tahunga, which was used in the Bionicle stuff, which later was considered, which later was actually taken back and not used anymore after the whole legal action.
That's interesting. And then Matthew Builds Bricks says hi.
Oh, hi.
Hi there. Matthew builds bricks is out of England, out of
Oh,
Kent,
nice,
England. So
nice.
yeah.
But yeah, yes, I see some Max is talking about throwbots. Throwbots are fun. I have a couple upstairs. I can't get them right now,
Well,
but
we'll get to that in a second. So, all right.
yeah,
So
I was
this
gonna say hold on
particular
there.
mask, what you were just reading about, talked about an infection of some sort.
Yes, the rusty stuff is it's an infected how. How is a mask of protection. I believe it's derived from a word actually from New Zealand.
Okay. So this mask was supposed to protect you, or this one
That
got
one,
dissolved and didn't get. So I'm a little
no,
confused.
no, so that one is being controlled by the is it's unclear if it's either the shapeshifter Makuta taking form of it or if it was infected by Makuta. So in the Matunui online game from the early thousands, there was a story arc where the Toa had to go into a underground area to fight the Makuta who was controlling the Rahi and making them fight against the villager. Rahi were the wildlife, just the inhabitants other than the villagers like the Matoran or the
So,
Turaga who were like the just wise ones.
so what I'm fascinated about this is that not knowing what Bionicle was, I always thought Bionicle was almost like a Transformers kind of thing. But this really has like a huge legend behind it.
Yes.
And this whole backstory. And you even mentioned at the very beginning that if it wasn't for Bionicle, we wouldn't have this wealth of stories, unlike pirates that are just like on a boat somewhere.
Or
But
space.
yeah, so there's this huge Bionicle backstory, which is probably why there is such a tight-knit group of people who are Bionicle supporters. So this is great. I'm so glad you've educated me and some of our viewers on this. And Debo Brick says, wow. So hello, R2 Debo. Matthew is here. Yeah, Greedo is here too.
If you like Ninjago, thank Bionicle for the Ninjago even existing for all the story stuff.
Wow.
Because Ninjago probably not exist if Bionicle did not succeed.
Well, and that's why, you know, when people were telling me about, yeah, all those Bionicle people are voting up all, you know, the stories, and it's kind of like, well, Bionicle kind of helped Lego survive. And, you know, all of these people, I think, you know, I don't know if this is true. You can tell me if this is, but just from my observation, I think that a lot of Bionicle people are kind of, they're not appreciated as much as they should be. And I think that's a shame. Everybody I've talked to who is at a convention with Bionicle, for example, it's like they give the Bionicle people like the far corner of the showroom. And it's kind of like, why aren't we spending more time educating people about what Bionicle is?
Or the Lego movie mentioned, the Lego movie call out for Bionicle.
Yeah.
It's just a little short clip, like just a little short snippet. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, we don't talk about that.
The mask of shielding protects you from the direct attack, not from be held attack. Okay, yes, so that comes from Minifigure Collector, who mentions that. So this is great. I'm glad we're having this conversation. Okay, so I wanted to see if we can segue to the next slide. So this is another Bionicle slide with it looks like 6 characters. Now, are these the 6 warriors?
Those are the 6 Toa. Yes, the 6 warriors, also known as the Toa. Those are the Toa Mata from the first wave of the figures.
And I think too, what's interesting about this is, I think you mentioned this, the far left character, the black with the green eyes, did you tell me that you also repurposed that particular mask as a belly of an insect or something?
Actually, that was in a set, which was a little poly bag way back when. There was a spider abdomen, but I believe it's the orange one, if I remember correctly.
Oh, okay. So Lego repurposed it.
Yes.
For a poly bag. Okay. Cool.
They also had a mail away thing where it's like one of those master builder sets from like 2011 or 2010 to like, it was not from that time, it was like 2011 or 2012 kind of Master Builder sets. They had Bionicle one from like 2003 or 4, which is like a raptor. They had a spider you could build also. I believe you could make a cow with it. That is one of the rare ones of the time that I had. So
now these 6, when they were launched by Lego, were they launched as separate sets so that you bought individual ones, or
each one came in a canister? This is a canister from the end of the line. It's not the same canister.
Let me spotlight you for a moment.
This is a different canister. This is from the end of the line from like 2009, I think, or 2010. This one is, well, it cost $7.99 at the time.
I was gonna say you left the price tag on it. So hold that up again if you don't mind. So this is it came in a canister.
Yeah, a little plastic little canister. Yeah.
Okay.
But so the ones from the early days actually looked like a little pill, like a little pill kind of. And so the whole point was they washed up on shore, kind of they fell from the sky, washed up on shore, and then they assembled themselves.
Oh, so they are kind of like Transformers in that way. So that
somewhat.
If you hold it up one more time, that you have there, it says the Golden Shield or the Golden Bionicle.
Yeah, so that was a promo from you had to collect them all of this wave, the Stars wave, which is kind of the last farewell for Bionicle.
Now, were the gold pieces that same kind of lacquered gold, or was that a previous type?
They were pretty much similar color to this pauldron or this mask on Leak
Oh, okay, like a polished kind of gold.
I have not opened that one up. I have 2 of them. They're already open, but I have to find them.
No, it's okay. I appreciate you sharing that, though. Okay, so let me see if I can go back to that slideshow.
They're not like the 50th anniversary gold pieces, if that's what you're asking.
Oh, okay. Well, I think there's so many different gold pieces out there that it's always interesting to see what is available.
Yes, they also had golden Kanohi masks, like what these ones were, well, like the ones on the picture are wearing.
Kanohi masks. Is that
Kanohi?
Kanohi.
No, Kanohi.
Oh, Kanohi masks. Okay.
Yes.
So that's what those are called. The masks are called Kanohi masks. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, the elements are for fire, ice, stone, air, water, and earth.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So,
can you guess which ones are which?
Well, let's see. Fire's got to be red.
Yep.
Am I right? Okay.
Tahu had a flame sword.
Ice would be the white.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
It says water, so that's blue.
Yep.
Let's see. Earth would be the brownish one, or is it the green one?
So stone is brown, wind is green, and then I believe earth is black.
Black?
The black lived underground. The stone one, because they're like masons and stuff that actually craft like stone architecture and different things, was the brown, because they also had a game like soccer, also as football. for those
known as, I like how you use the air quotes on that.
Yes,
also
for those
known as football.
For the people not in the football country.
Okay, that's a whole nother episode where we talk about the differences between American football and football around the rest of the world, which I think would be a great episode if I got a couple, really big football fans for a variety of different football.
So originally, canonically, the game was like soccer, but then they changed it more like a lacrosse kind of style game where you have a hammer on the bottom of the lacrosse stick.
Oh, really? For this game, this Bionicle game, you had a lacrosse?
It was a game they played in the universe of, actually in the Matunui universe, I should say.
Okay. Kind of like Quidditch is in the universe of Harry Potter.
Yes.
This other sport was a sport in the Bionicle universe.
Yes, it was called Golly.
Golly, okay.
It was originally with a little boulder piece from like the Rock Raiders sets and different things, and little boulder pieces.
Yeah, I was wondering where those came from.
Yeah, it was a brown one, and they repurposed it from Rock Raiders to actually, maybe it was actually before that possibly. And the guy who was brown would actually have his legs would move instead of his arms, would actually kick the ball. These little special little pieces of wind in his feet too, so it looked like little boots.
Oh, wow. So, all right. So you have the 6 warriors who represent all of these different elements of the world. And so in a way, this is kind of pre-Ninjago, where they had the
Yes.
Ninjago characters that are all representing fire, water, etc.
Yes. And the blue
Wow.
ones are always female, by the way.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Well, that's what they also did in the Ninjago universe, because Nia is water and she's also
Well,
blue.
think Bionicle feel like Ninjago.
See, my mind is blown because I did not make that connection between Bionicle and Ninjago. So thank you. Thank you for that. Wow. That's cool. And then let's see, minifigure collector also says Poatu Toa was flipped, so he had a kicking faction too.
Function, yes, he did have a kicking function.
Okay.
And that's why he kicked the little boulder. That's why he kicked the boulders.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. See, this is great. I love how we have this conversation and it's spurring conversation in the chat as well.
Yeah, that's how that like looked like he had big hips.
Well, but the thing is, I still don't understand why more people aren't talking about the history of some of this. And when you mentioned that, you know, the female characters were always blue, then it was like, oh, wow, I made the connection there that they brought that over into the Ninjago universe.
Actually, scratch that in the on Baron Magna, which was the after Matunui left the planet of Aqua Magna, which is like towards the end of the series.
Mm-hmm.
There were blue characters that were not just female.
Okay. but still, it's a significant point, because we did take that into the Ninjago universe by making the Nia character blue.
Yes.
So I think that's a significant connection. So thank you. Thank you.
I said to put the others to not get corrected by anyone.
No, it's I think that's one thing you notice too in the Lego world in general. When you get in with a bunch of really passionate Lego people, that if you say something that may or may not be absolutely correct, there's always somebody there to say, well, actually, if you go back, this is the actual background. So I'm always very careful about even remotely saying I'm an expert in anything. I'm good at interviewing other people who are experts.
Yes,
so,
also technically the characters on that planet, which were not on the same one as the characters on the screen, were actually just modified. Like they're on a planet that was basically just wasteland, and the two moons were just parts of the planet that were used to be attached.
Right.
So that goes back to the stuff from way back when. But yeah, I'm not gonna do spoilers. Like it's better if you discover the series and actually follow the series and actually research it and actually learn about it. It's just a series about discovery, about discovering the characters in different parts and just the lore. That's what that's part of the fun of the series, is discovering what makes it so intriguing, finding new things.
And that's why there's so many passionate people about Bionicle, and the whole possibility that the 90th anniversary set could be a Bionicle set. That's why so many people came out. And
fingers crossed.
Well, you know what? It's interesting because I imagine from Lego's point of view that they're probably saying, you know, we've got to pay attention to these Bionicle people because look at all the votes that it came.
Got to make the money.
However, newer people will not understand Bionicle. And so they have a pretty big quandary on their hands, because you want to acknowledge your current user base, but you also have to acknowledge that, you know, some of the newer builders who are building the floral bouquets, the bonsai tree, the crocodile train, they're not going to have any clue.
I can tell you, I know plenty of people who would love to come back for Bionicle.
Right. And that's why it's going to be interesting to see how Lego responds to that whole poll, because you can't just say, well, we saw that so many Bionicle people voted, but we decided we're not going to produce something. They're going to have to do something.
Hold on a second. Minifigure, yes. McDonald's promos from 2001.
Oh, okay. Hold up. Let me spotlight you. Here, let me.
Here is one of the ones from believe is Lee Koro, or on which is part of Lee Wahi. Lee Koro was the village in Lee Wahi, if I remember correctly, or maybe it's the other way around.
Mm-hmm. That's adorable.
Yeah, it has the Mask of Levitation, if I remember correctly. Which
And
also
that was a McDonald's Happy Meal
yeah,
giveaway?
this was a McDonald's set right here.
Uh-huh.
It's like all one thing. Trying turns into pile pieces. Crud.
So it was a poly bag,
Yes.
essentially, that
Yes,
they
it
put
was a
into
poly
Happy
bag, yeah.
Meal.
And they had comics. They had a comic. There was a giveaway that you could just like pick up by the napkins at the McDonald's I went to as a kid.
So
Let me tell you, I wish I had one of those comics still. That was actually it was precursor to, like, I believe either a precursor or was like the start of the. It was like a one shot. Was like the precursor or the start of the Lego magazine comics.
see, this is something I have no idea about. Lego magazine comics. That's going to have to be another episode.
Yeah. So Lego magazine used to have a issue of a Bionicle comic from DC every month, or whenever the issue came for Lego magazine. So I got like, I wish I had all my comics. I have like a couple of the Bionicle comics left.
So what year would that have been?
Started 2001, I believe, for the Bionicle comics, and then they ended like when Bionicle run ended. When the toys ended, I believe is like 2009 or 10, maybe 11 at the latest.
Right.
It's kind of fuzzy. Those are my high school years.
So let's go back to the PowerPoint again. And I just wanted to also ask you about this next slide. Oops. This is not, there we go. Oops. Oh no. Okay.
Oh no.
It just shows you my I think because of the delay. There we go. That's what I wanted to share with everybody.
Oh yes, Generation 2. Those are actually the protectors, I believe, not the Toa.
I was just going to ask you because the colors are a little different too. And
yes,
I am so excited when you shared this because I was wondering where this came from. Because I have this
is that
meteor
from
thing.
Hold on a second. Can you I need
let me spotlight me.
Yeah, hold on.
I will spotlight me here.
That might have been from Next Nights, is where that one
is it
might have came from.
Nights? Okay.
That may have come from Next Nights. I believe the purple one was from that could have been in one of the
because this purple one, that looks exactly like this. Yes. But in purple.
Yes, I also have a black or silver one from a Scooby-Doo Mansion set also.
Okay, so I was wrong. This isn't a Bionicle piece. I was so excited.
It very well could be one, but it could be. I have one from. I don't know. I mean, it's used in mini sets from when it's been used in Bionicle. Like the reboot ones, it's been used in Hero Factory, if I remember correctly, which is like the Bionicle.
Yeah, that's another thing I have no clue about is Hero Factory.
I know nothing but Hero Factory either.
Okay, good. We'll stick with Bionicle. So going back to this, these 6 characters, these are not the same as the ones that we were just looking at, right?
No.
Okay. So this is what, Series 2 that came after?
Generation 2. It came in 2015, 2016. Here's the box from Generation 2.
All right.
This is of Liwa Toa of Air, which I have several boxes of Bionicle still in the packaging from this era. Because I stocked up on them, but this did not have as much of plot as the previous one did. They were really not heavy on like giving it plot. They didn't have as much media for it.
Right. Now if you hold that up again, there were some like beetles or something. Is it attacking a beetle?
It's a spider, but with like a skull of a villager, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, because if you turn it upside down, it looks like a skull, right?
Yeah, here.
Yeah. Okay.
It's called a skull spider.
A skull spider.
I think that's what's called. Hold on. Let me look at this really quickly.
So while you're looking at that, minifigure collector verified that that's a Nexo Knights piece that I was holding up.
Okay, good. I'm glad I was right about that.
Yeah. Wow. So going back to that packaging, so I'm just going to have you keep being like Vanna White here.
Yeah, notice how they didn't use the word Toa. They used the word Master of jungle
Master of the Jungle.
instead of Toa of Air. They
Lua.
named, they still have it Liwa, but then it's just
Okay.
they didn't use the word Toa because of the whole New
Ah.
Zealand thing again.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay, so let's go back again. So
Although the name is still the same as for the the main name for the character is still the same. They just changed the mask. So instead of having a mask like this one, there's a mask like this instead, where they changed it. Other masks they changed to make it look like the older one, just a little bit more stylized and modernized.
right. Okay, so going back to this, I'm not sure if I can, yeah, I can make it a little bigger.
I wish I
So-
brought some of those downstairs. I have plenty. I have all of those in multiples. I wish I
Well,
brought them
these, just looking at the skulls on these, they have these little flaring things on top. And can you explain if that means anything as far as,
Oh,
'cause if
the
you look at the-
masks, you mean?
well, yeah, see how the purple mask here has this
Yep.
flame, you know, like these spikes coming out
I
of it?
don't know
Same
much about
thing with
Gen
the
2. I'm
blue.
sorry. I don't know much about
And-
Gen 2.
Okay. Well, maybe minifigure collector might
I
might
just,
be able to jump in here.
I didn't watch the Netflix series. I did not play the iOS game.
Because each one of these have that kind of
Yes. Yes, the same exact
spiky
mask.
face. And apparently Debo has got a couple of those spider masks.
Yep, yeah,
And-
I have a whole little bin full of them, like a bin about this.
Well, the other thing that I find fascinating about this is I think this was early on the use of translucent pieces in multiple shapes, right?
Hold on. This Bionicle, Golly Mata, had a translucent mask from the early thousands, around 2001 to like 2000, when I believe the test market was like around like 99 or 2000. 2001 was when the actual launch was.
So that translucent mask, I mean, that is almost like a cloudy kind of purplish blue.
Oh, it's blue, yes, but I mean, hold on, you can look through it and look at me. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
really
you can
nice,
see
nice
through it.
color.
Wow.
It's a
And
really
it
nice
does look
color,
like a big mask, yeah.
and it's a mask for this underwater breathing or something.
Mm-hmm.
Don't correct me. I'm not sure if I remember properly, but
Well, I think what's interesting is, at least to me, kind of as a
I mean, don't quote me on this.
newer Lego person, is that those pieces that we saw in that other graphic had a lot of translucent colors that, you know, like the yellow and the green and some of the purple that you don't see as much,
Yeah.
except for maybe as blocks.
Now here's a good blending piece right here, where it blends silver with actual like kind of bluish. It
That's
makes a
beautiful.
snowflake.
Yeah. Oh,
It's a
that's
snowflake.
beautiful.
It's like
Yeah.
a shield. Here's one of my favorite ones. It's not a complete set because it's missing two of the weapons. They're actually make the set. But here's a Vaki. It shoots little discs out of its mouth thing.
Oh, wow.
I don't have a disc to put in here right now, but it can actually transform into like a little spider-like thing, and they can just go.
See, I love the articulation in those.
Yes, and the
Weird.
creativity for building is so nice.
Yeah. Now that's silver too. Is that silver a polished silver, or what is?
It looks like it's a shiny kind of polish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually in the lore, it's called Proto Steel, or is it Dura Steel? One of those is Star Wars, and the other is Bionicle. I believe Dura Steel might be Star Wars. I believe Dura Steel might be like Armor Weave is Star Wars. So yeah, I believe it's Proto Steel is what the weapons and different parts are made out of.
Mm-hmm.
Little fun fact: these hooks are actually kind of hands. They're not like weapons. They actually were used for grabbing and moving in the actual old lore and stuff.
They almost look like praying mantis hands.
Yes,
the way they're
I always
shaped.
thought they looked more like a sickle.
Yeah. Yeah. Sickle is also a good metaphor for that.
And here's a really fun play feature. These swords come off. Let me put them on this foot. Because the feet actually some of the feet had little things we could put stuff on, depending on the part. Huh. Rotate the ankle bit. Surf and Toa.
That's great.
Tahu Nuva also had that ability too, but it was two swords with little flames outside. But you had to put them like on either side of the foot. Oh yeah, this is the Bionicle Stars version of Tahu, which had the golden Bionicle piece you could put on it. Had a little flame sword. The How is actually smaller than the original release.
Now that is not a little flame sword.
It is. It used to, the original one was way smaller. This is like a pretty big one now.
Well, I'm just fascinated by all of this. I just think that, what you've been sharing so far is still blowing my mind as far as what the range of things that were available to Bionicle. And do you also do shows? Have you brought MOCs to various shows of Bionicle?
I've never really done a MOC, and I've never been to a convention for Lego. I've wanted to for
Never?
years. Never. I've wanted to for years. I've never
Wow.
done it though. I
Wow.
mean, when you said about BrickCon last year and
Yes.
stuff, I wanted to attend. The problem was I didn't have the time at the time.
Okay. Well, October, because for those of you who don't know, I should have mentioned this earlier. Lina Suarez is also in the Seattle area, and because we've met in person, quote unquote, but you're local, just like I'm local.
Yes.
And a couple more comments from the chat is that the Golly Mask is the mask of underwater breathing.
Yes,
so I think that's what you were showing earlier. And then Proto Steel is the metal for Bionicle. So
okay,
you're
cool.
right there.
Cool.
So we have somebody verifying your facts, because like I said, I can interview you, but I can't verify if what you're saying is true or not.
Yes.
So that's great.
So on the topic of proto and Bionicles, the term protodermis is used a lot in the early stuff, like the early material, which goes into the part of the origin of the term Bionicle, or the name, which stands for biological chronicle.
A biological chronicle. Okay.
I am not going to go in further detail, but I recommend researching the origin. It's actually very interesting about the creative, one of the creative minds behind it, who also has Instagram, Fab Frames. Shout out to him. He's trying to do the Biovival, which he was teasing about last year. And then April 1st, he had a stream, but then he couldn't share much information due to legal reasons. Because they're trying to actually, it's in the works. So please check out Fab Frames on Instagram.
Fab Frames. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Now, I wanted to ask you too so Bionicle was very popular in 2001, you said, till about 2010, right? So
around 9 or 10, yeah.
So about a decade. So now that we have this resurgence of interest based on that survey that came out, would you as a Bionicle fan, I mean, what would you like to see?
I want to see new comics, new games, like web games or whatever, like maybe a game on Steam that was free to play, like a point and click adventure game like the Matunui online game 1 and 2. I'd love to see them pick up where they left off, because they left so much room for expansion.
So you think a reboot then of Bionicle could be something that maybe they might consider, or you would like them to consider?
Well, there's the Biovival project, which is going on from the creator, like the original creative mind. And I would love to see there to be a continuation. Not maybe a reboot would be nice, but continuation would be good too.
Okay, so essentially, if they did a continuation, you'd have to do some sort of callback to the original series, and people have to be educated on that and know more about that.
Yes, which might have a higher ceiling to get into. So I'd say maybe a relaunch. Maybe with the. Well, it totally, because Generation 2 was a reboot. It was not. Okay. It only lasted 2 years, 1 year, last 2015 to 2016, did not work because they did not have enough multimedia thing, not enough stuff to keep up with. They didn't give it lore as good as the previous stuff.
it's different too, because back
Yes.
then, 2000, 1 to 2010, we didn't have the same social media that we have now.
Yes.
Minifigure Collector says there's 389 Bionicle sets, according to Brick Set, and that the Protector are the leaders of the village, I guess.
Oh,
The Protector. So,
okay.
but I'm just thinking, all right, based on what I've observed as a fairly new person to the Lego community, we have this 90th anniversary coming up. We have this huge Bionicle fan base. I
Yes,
mean,
it's
whether or
mesmerizing.
not, I mean, but the thing is, it's been over 10 years that Bionicle sets have been available, and they're still very passionate about it. And you can't get parts unless you go to Bricklink. They don't have any new sets coming out. So it sounds like, as I mentioned, I don't know what's going on in Lego's head, but there's this, pent up demand for something.
I have a solution for Lego. Make more, make all three theme sets that were voted. Make like the space, the pirates,
Mhm.
or in the
Yeah.
Bionicle all sets. Let's just make
Just
everyone
just
happy.
do all of them. Well, I was talking to somebody that they could also do something similar to what they did with some of the gifts with purchase, where you have like 4 quadrants, right?
Yes,
You
yes.
split it up into 4 quadrants, and then you could have your little dedication to space, your little dedication to pirates, your dedication to Bionicle, and I can't remember the fourth one.
Personally, I'd love to see a line of rebooted space, line of rebooted pirates, just all those different.
Oh yeah.
Well, with
I'm
like
big into pirates. I would love the whole
yes,
pirates
yes,
reboot.
just like a vintage style Redbeard.
Oh my God. Yeah. And my
Not
new set
Barracuda
as
Bay.
my white whale. No, I've got Barracuda Bay. Is I
Yeah.
want the sea cow.
Oh yeah,
The
yeah.
sea
Oh gosh,
cow.
I missed on,
I
I
missed
missed,
the sea cow.
I missed on all the space sets from Benny. I wish I got those when they were like $10 each from like the little one with the like robot and everything with little space friends. I want to
Yeah.
get multiple of those. I want to get a couple of the other space ones. I missed on the Lego Movie 2 space sets.
So the only Bionicle comic that minifigure collector doesn't have is the 6 Heroes, 1 Destiny.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But he
Well,
sounds like he's got all of the comics.
I remember I was so excited because I got the Mask of Light comic, which had a little like foil cover,
Mm.
like the cover actually like hollow foil.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that sounds
It was
fun.
for the Mask of Light movie like comic thing. But it was like came in Lego magazine. I was super excited. It was like 2004. I'm like, yes, I got this comic. It's so amazing. But it gave spoilers for the movie though.
Well, but it goes back to people like me who have zero Bionicle experience except for observing them at shows. And that's why it's still fascinating to me that 10 years later, after these Bionicle sets have been produced, there's still this pent up demand for Bionicle from this part of the community. And they keep building, they
I
keep
know,
going
right?
to shows, they keep building some amazing things. So, you can't ignore that.
Yep.
I think that's something that I'm sure Lego executives are trying to figure out. Well, what do we do? Because it is also a big part of their history.
Oh yeah,
Because
yeah.
you can't say, well, Bionicle was just a little blip. I mean, Bionicle really saved Lego back in the
You
day.
mind if I go into that a bit?
Yes, please, please.
Lego tried with the buildable figure thing 2 times before Bionicle, that in my knowledge. That
Okay.
actually hit stores or test markets. One of them was Slizers, also known as Throbots. The other was like a motorcycle robot thing. I cannot remember what it's called. I believe they're Robo Riders.
Robo Riders and
I
Thoroughbots. Is that what you call them?
like throwing,
Throwbots. A throwbot.
and
Okay.
also and the feature would be like there'd be an arm with a hand like this, like the hand like this, but it's longer, and you'd like take it and go and throw a little disc like this one, which this is like a throwbot kind of design with little arm, but the arms are different.
Oh, fun. So the minifigure collector says the Mictoran became the Toa Nika.
Yes, well, actually, Maku was the blue McDonald's tour and promo. Holly, which was is HALHI or something, was the not in the McDonald's promo, but became a Toe and Nika
Wow.
instead of Maku. So that's just one quick thing right there.
That's just when you are able to recite all of the legends. I mean, it goes back to mythology and how there's a
Definitely.
lot of mythology that's built into the Bionicle universe, which I think is fascinating because it's similar to like Greek mythology or Roman mythology, that
Definitely.
different gods or characters had certain powers. So I'm really glad that you shared this with us, because I like I said, I have no clue about Bionicle except there's some really cool pieces that are part of that line.
Yes.
And
So back on the topic of how Bionicle saved Lego.
yeah.
Lego was in trouble with finances. They just, I believe they just acquired the Star Wars license a year or two before they started Bionicle, and that was going to pay off, but that was only long term.
Mm-hmm. So do you think then that, given the history of Bionicle and how it saved Lego and the, large support from the Lego community, you had mentioned that they should build 4 different sets and make everybody happy. But I think the bigger question is, okay, so they have this anniversary set. What comes after that? And are they going to continue to address the current, Lego system, or will they ever consider bringing back Bionicle? That's the bigger question.
I hope they bring back Technic Bionicle, because Technic was like Bionicle was part of the Technic line originally. As you see on the packages, like on little canisters. Just like Slicers, also known as Throwbots, and then the Robo Riders, I believe they're called. One of them had, so Slicers was, I believe, the European or American name. Throwbots was either, it's like one of the two. They're both the same thing, but different names for different part of the world.
So what if they brought back, let's just say, just like they have right now, these, what do you call them? These video bots, right? Video boxes.
Yeah,
what if they put instead a Throwbot or like a little, I'm thinking, what if they took, instead of making the big figures, make them into minifigures as Bionicle minifigures as a CMF?
They did have some Bionicle little like buildable play sets.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't as successful from what I remember. They were cool, but they were from like the Web of Shadows kind of era, and then the Voyanui era.
See, I have no clue what you're talking about. But so, what I was thinking is, what if there's a bridge, because people love CMFs, right? And they collect CMFs. What if they came out with a line of CMFs that were a throwback to the Bionicle ages, and each of those CMFs had special powers or what have you, and they could have little boxes like these video boxes with, I don't know, I'm spitballing here, but I think there's got to be some bridge to bring back Bionicle with what people have been doing.
Yeah, personally, I tweeted at Lego a while ago to make little Matoran like this from the McDonald's promo, but make the packaging a blind box or blind bag where they have different parts.
Exactly. Do a blind box of Bionicle.
Also, for the Matoran, maybe the box be repurposed into like a little house they could live in, like a little hut or something they could live inside.
Yeah, they could do that. So we have a couple comments from the chat. So Robo Riders, that's confirmed. That was from Debo Bricks. And Cowboy Cornado is asking a question from the fully armored reptilian transport squad, the sworn enemy of Bionicle and the snack food for conglomerates. With the low part count and the non-complex builds, were these the inspiration for the 4+ sets?
Okay.
We got some people who are like just stirring the pot and just,
Okay. I'm going to accept that burn. I'll get some aloe vera.
I like that. I haven't heard that term. I'll get some aloe vera. I accept that burn.
So if you want brick builds, here's some little mock I made, which is a little tree with mixel joints. It was inspired by Mixels.
Right. Well, and I think that goes back to, okay, so let's go back to Bionicle again. The articulating arms, the gears, the storyline, but then they just said, nope, we're not going to do that anymore. But 10 years, 11 years later, there's still fans who want to see more. And that's what, to me, as a business person, you just don't want to ignore that, right? You
Yep.
want to at least come up with something. And that's why I think a CMF line might be a good solution, because it's small packaging. They already have the CMF kind of built in as far as, promotion, getting it in the pipeline. Maybe it may or may not sell as well as like a Looney Tunes CMF, but, put it out there.
Yeah.
At least that way, if it does sell out, because it might address also all the CMF collectors.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The CMF collectors are like, well, I'm not really into Bionicle, but maybe if I don't get this, I will be one series behind and not have that CMF collection. So,
Oh, definitely.
yeah.
Personally, I'd love to see like little figures like this, just prepackaged. That's what I want. I want them to have little Bionicle sets, like the little poly bags from McDonald's, but maybe like a little thing you can make in a little house for it. I mean, that's
right.
They had villages all over the island of Matunui.
So minifigure collector says, I think the 90th anniversary shouldn't be Bionicle. They got a Bionicle ADP set. Okay, so I don't know what an ADP set is. I know what, so Greedo.
Really, there's seriously
ADP? What is ADP?
I don't know.
See, it's funny people throw out acronyms, and
I think that's like I think it's from Fricklink, possibly. Let me look at ones.
It says, yeah, well, I disagree with you, minifigure collector. I do think the 90th anniversary, because it's the 90th anniversary, you can't disregard Bionicle, because Bionicle helped save the company. So it's kind of like, yeah, we're appreciative that you saved the company, but we're not going to acknowledge you. I do think they have to acknowledge them in some form or fashion in the 90th anniversary piece. And I'm in agreement with Lina. I think that if they had like a small set or maybe a medium-sized set that had 4 quadrants, acknowledging the top 4 categories, then everybody would be happy and they'd sell it, right?
Yeah.
And maybe some people may not build the Bionicle piece because they don't like it, but that's okay.
Yeah, personally, I would like it if they had like a line for the space, and just like a whole line for the vintage space, whole line for vintage parts, maybe a whole line for the other one that won. I don't know all of them. I haven't looked at all the results yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the 4th one, but it's definitely space. Oh, castle, of course. Castle, pirates, and Bionicle.
And then like a small line of Bionicle to start off. And then if those are all successful, they can continue building from there and seeing like the vintage kind of nostalgia market, seeing who's going to buy what.
Yeah, I agree with you, but we're not Lego executives, so
I know.
We're just Lego speculators and chatters and streamers and what have you.
Well, if you tweet at Lego enough, they might listen.
Yeah, and so other people are agreeing with us too, as far as, so Cowboy Cornado says, I think they should do all 4. They can afford it. Yeah, exactly. Just like the idea set. Just imagine these are 4 idea sets, right?
Yeah, but don't make them too overpriced, Lego.
Okay.
If you're listening, do not make them too overpriced.
No, don't make them overpriced. ADP stands for A Full Design Program. So thank you, right? Figure collector. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Also, this was like in the early thousands, like maybe like $5 to $7 for this figure at Toys R Us.
So Toys R Us was in on the game too for a while?
Yeah, Toys R Us was with Bionicle for the whole, even for like Gen 2, they were there for it.
Now, what is that figure you're holding up there?
Oh, this was this is a replacement for my original figure, which is Golly Mata. Well, Mata is actually the Toa Mata version of Golly, Toa of water.
And this is a blue figure, so is this one a female character?
This is the original female.
Oh, okay.
Little feet, has the hooks on arms, and little action like that. Plus the gears. The gears are like what make the set playability. Other than the posability, which is somewhat limited. But the actual ads for the figures were made with CG, but they kept the figure's articulation the way it is on the actual figure. So actually looks like the figure is like moving on its own in the ads.
Right. Well, I'm really, really thankful that you came on the show to talk a little bit about Bionicle. And I'm curious, is there any other closing thoughts that you had about Bionicle? And yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's just, they've really helped me go through a hard time in life.
Oh, as far as Bionicle?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Ah.
It actually helped me get through a lot of rough times in life in an early age, and like through elementary through like to high school. It helped me, kind of gave me a community to be a part of.
Well,
And
and
that,
I think that's part of why there's such a big fan base of
yeah.
Bionicle is it's the stories. And that's another thing that I'm really appreciative that you shared this with us, because I had no idea about the whole um, legend and mythology behind Bionicle. I always thought of them as these mechanical types of robot-like things. And
Well,
I think this gives me a much better appreciation. So thank
little
you.
interesting is they're not technically just, they're not technically robots. They have tissue under like metal
Well,
and
yeah.
stuff.
And see, that's kind of why for somebody like me who just is observing what these Bionicle figures look like, and to me they look like Transformers, but I
Hmm.
didn't realize the whole tissue thing, the backstory, the infection, the masks, the colors, there's I know we only skimmed the surface of it too, because we couldn't talk about a whole lot in a little over an hour. But I'm just really thankful that you agreed to be on the show.
We'll have until 4 if
Well, I don't think we're going to have to talk till 4, but I did want to mention, since Debo Bricks is in the chat, that before we close, I wanted to just remind everybody, and we are doing the 3-in-1 Rebrick challenge. In fact, let me put this on speaker view. All right, so what we're doing here is we have this 3-in-1 set, which is 3-1-1-1-1, the Cyber Drone. So I mentioned this as Thrifty Thursdays. And what we're doing is we're taking this set and we're asking people to rebrick this. So hashtag rebrick this. It's a very affordable set. It's retail for $9.99. I got it for $7.99 at Target. It's got a cool little minifigure in here. I built it on my stream. I know Debo built it on his stream. I will probably be doing a rebrick on Monday of this. But I wanted to encourage people to be part of this community. Hashtag rebrick this. And you have until April 18th, when he'll be back on the show Sunday. So in a couple weeks, we will do a review show of that. But yeah, I wanted to thank you again, Lina, for being on the show. It's awesome that you were
I
able to
would like to
share so
thank you for
much.
having me, and also thank all the viewers for viewing.
Great. Let me also, I know some people might want to get in touch with Lina, so let me pull up their contact info.
And if you have any bones to pick with, if you have any problems with the Bionicle, contact me about something else in the Bionicle, please.
Okay.
Unless you want to learn about more about Bionicle.
Okay, hopefully this will stay up. Okay, so here are some of Lina's contact sites. So, oops, oh no, sorry.
This is totally okay.
The problem I have, honestly, is that I have this laptop I'm working on, so I'm trying to move a window so I could read everything. But
Yep.
okay, well, we'll leave it at that. I'm not going to touch anything right now. So you can find them on Twitter at Lina Inverse Game. We also have Instagram at #1 Boglin Boy. We also have Twitch. I'm sorry, you had a follow-up?
Yeah. The #1 Boglin Boy is actually a joke about is a Jim Sterling reference. If you know who Jim Sterling is, actually, I don't even think if they are even going by that name anymore. Boglins are a hand puppets line toy line from the late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
They are making a comeback, like Bionicle hopefully will, with the Biovival. So that's a recommendation. Look up the Biovival from Fab Frames on Instagram. but this is just my side project Instagram. So
So, and then you also have your own Twitch stream as well. And you may have, for those of you who follow me also on Twitch, you may have seen Lina drop in as the Masked Rider Gaming. And then Discord, Lina Inverse number 1790. So I'm glad you told me that, because it's always so hard to find people on Discord. So you have that there for you. Now, there have been a couple questions. So Minifigure Collector says, are we going to get more lore? Well, I mean, I was planning to close this down, but if people wanted to hang out and talk about more lore, but Max Braun said this was a fun broadcast and that it was informative and fun. So thank you so much. Appreciate that. And Debo was just reinforcing that the set we were talking about is cheap and very affordable. And Debo's also appreciative of the information too.
Hello, April. I heard you like Bionicles, it looks like.
Oh, April Crazy Bricks. Hey, welcome. So what's going on? Bionicles. Well, this is here. Let me do an escape here, because like I said, I was planning to conclude this, but it sounds like some people, if you have more questions, I mean, absolutely put those in the chat. And April just arrived, and I think Robbie wants some more lore. But like I said, it's it's good I missed the beginning. Well, I want to be respectful of your time too.
Oh, no. I'm open until 4 p.m.
Why don't we do this? Maybe why don't we schedule Bionicle Part 2? Because now that people have a nice introduction, they can go out, take a look. Maybe we'll even have, if there is, we'll have to see if there's anything out there in Bionicle that maybe people can download.
Actually, I do have a site recommendation. It's called the Biomedia Project.
Okay.
It is just an archive of all things Bionicle, like web games that were from Lego.
Biomedia Project?
Yeah, and I believe this site may have some problems, but it is a really good resource. They have like web games, they have books, they have movies. It's just all the stuff archived, like the comics.
Okay, so I have here, I put it in the chat into, see, this is funny. It's in the chat on Zoom. If somebody wants to type that in, I can possibly type it in here into the Zoom.
You typed it into the Zoom thing right here, not into everyone on Zoom. You typed it into.
I know, I typed it into Zoom because I've got here, I'm going to see if I can type it in here. Unless somebody else can type it in, because you'll be faster than me.
Yeah, but also there are lots of books I recommend. These are really cheap on Amazon. They're like $5 a pop for like a good condition one. This one's actually really terrible condition. This is my original copy that survived a fire. And then I also have the second and third one right here with me.
Nice.
Then there's actually a really good one to get you kind of like introduced to the world and like the different islands. Is Bionicle World. It's from Scholastic. It is from like 2007 or 2009, and it has it's like $14 on Amazon in good used condition, but it's a really good introduction. It has a lot of illustrations of like different things. Talks about just different factions like the Dark Hunters, and it talks about the Toa and where they came from. Talks about where Makuta is from. Talks about a whole bunch of different islands. There's like 9, maybe 10 islands, but
so April was really saying that she's actually said it may be good she missed it from the beginning, but she has too many, I guess, parts that she needs help identifying. Sorting from bulk projects. So I guess, if you have a Bionicle piece, would this resource page be able to help identify those? Or
no, Bricklink is for that, I'd say.
Right. Or April, you belong to Sort Lug. So if you just show the piece to Sort Lug, and then Robbie is here on the chat. So Minifigure Collector, he's big into Bionicle, so he could probably also help you too.
Yeah, I mean, Bricklink has a whole like archive of Bionicle pieces, from varying from colors to shape to actual
Mhm.
size to like masks to weapons, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, so April's clarifying that, yeah, she's actually trying to find the parts list so she can rebuild some things.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yes,
Bricklink is definitely a good place for that.
yes. So they have building instructions on Biomedia Project site.
Okay, so the Biomedia project, I just put it in the chat on YouTube. So it's linked, it's there as well. So check that out. So why don't we do this, Lina? Why don't we have a maybe in the month of May, maybe in a
That's
couple
fine.
months,
April or May
maybe
is
what
fine.
we'll do is we'll just say, hey, if people had a chance to research into that, we'll do Bionicle Part 2. And then we'll do a follow-up to this, because I think it sounds like it's interesting because you just kind of scratch the surface. And for me, just learning about just also the backstories, I'm fascinated by that. So I want to take the time to be able to kind of look back at that and maybe ask you some more educated questions
Actually,
than I had
I have
before.
I have a quick question. Would you like to do a Bionicle book club?
Ooh,
Podcast. Yes, a bio book podcast or whatever.
wow. Would that be on your stream, on your Twitch stream, or
I
how would
could do
you
that.
want
Yeah,
to
I
do
could
that?
stream that. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I mean, they seriously have like a whole bunch of books. And
Well, I could maybe commit to one book a month because of
I mean,
everything
yeah,
I'm doing.
no, I'm not saying weekly. I'm saying like maybe like month or bi-monthly. Like, here's a list
Yeah,
of books right here.
yeah. And those books don't look too large, so I think I could manage
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and then maybe
Okay,
like,
so I'd be down for that. I will commit to reading one book between now and May. And if anybody wants to join in, then they could do that too.
yeah. So I believe the Biomedia Project has this one, but it's Bionicle Chronicles Tales of the Toa, which is the first book in the series.
Here, let me spotlight you for a moment. Okay, so Tale of the Toa, number 1.
Yeah, and it
That's
is from
perfect.
and it's from the Chronicles line, which is the
Okay.
original book stuff. And this is, let me look how many pages it is. It's very short. It's like maybe like
It looks like about 100 pages, maybe.
I think it's like 90, maybe 70.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're
It is
declaring it.
sorry, 126 pages.
We're declaring it right now. The first book of the Bionicle Book Club, which will be broadcast on Lena's channel, Master Writer Gaming, and I'll be your guest this time.
Yeah, you have your first guest
I could be your first
gig,
guest on your Twitch
and
stream.
your first guest gig overall.
Okay. Well, that'd be great. All right. Why don't we plan on that? We'll plan on
Okay, cool.
sometime in the month of May. That gives us time after May 4th, because we're going to have a lot of big Star Wars things going on. So it'll be after May 4th, probably towards the end of the month. And that we will, I'll commit to reading that first book, and then we'll have a more intelligent conversation about that. That
Yes.
sounds great.
Also, I have to remember what the 10th month is.
October.
Yeah. So October 10th is a bio day, if I remember correctly. Because
Sorry, what's that?
oh, sorry, not 10th. I'm in August 10th, 810 is bio day, which is like the Bionicle day, because 810.
Okay.
And that was a thing that was started by the creator of Bionicle a couple of years ago in like 2019 or 2020.
So you're talking about October 8th, and this will be the 20th anniversary.
So I'm in August 8th, not October. So I got
okay.
dyslexia.
August 8/8 or 8/10?
No, August 10th. Yes, August 10th.
8/10. Okay, so August 10th, we'll have to plan some sort of Bionicle celebration.
Yeah,
because it'll be 20 years, right?
Yeah, 2001.
October 8th, 01.
Well, I don't think
August 8th. August 10th.
I don't know the exact date of the launch of the sets, like for the actual worldwide launch or the US launch, but it should be this year's 20th anniversary, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so I'm just going back to Bionicle parts list. I think April and Debo are talking with each other about going through parts and comparing them to Bricklink and being able to look at pages of different kinds of parts. So good luck to you, April, on that. I think that that's an amazing task that you're going to take on. But we will commit for this stream, so I can close this out. We will do another follow-up Bionicle session. We will do a follow-up Bionicle session. We're going to have a book reading, where a book club, so to say, or so to speak, where we'll read that first book in the series. And then we'll have a discussion about it on Lina's stream. And then it looks like maybe August 10th or thereabouts, I'm willing to host another stream celebrating Bionicle, whatever that is.
No, definitely.
Since it's what, I'll do some research on that. August 10th. I don't know if it's 2001, August 10th, then it'll be the 20th anniversary of Bionicle, right?
That's not the anniversary date. I'm just saying that's like a day that was coined as Bionicle Day by the creator.
Well, we'll do something on Bionicle Day. Let's just plan on that. So in the month of May, we'll do something on Lina's stream. In the month of August, we'll do something on my stream, August 10th or thereabouts. We'll figure it out. But thank you again, Lina. This is awesome. It's been really great information. Really appreciate you taking the time. I love your energy and how much fun you have and your passion for Bionicle as well.
That passion has not died down over the past 10 years.
Yeah, and other people in the chat really appreciate the informative information that you've brought to us. And wanted to thank everybody, and especially Lina, for being on the show. I will be back on Twitch tonight at 9 o'clock. Continuing on Destiny's Bounty. As you know, I stream 3 times a week here on YouTube, 3 times a week on Twitch. Maybe someday I'll pick a platform, but for now it seems like I'm going to settle on that schedule for both.
Well, I'm going to be there tonight. Hope to see you guys there.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.